G'day and welcome to Not the Farmer's Wife podcast. I'm CJ Steedman and I'm not the farmer's wife, I'm the farmer. I'm also a mum to MJ and OJ and a full-time off-farm worker. And like most farmers, I'm able to farm with the help of my family and my partner, who I call the handy helper. On Mojo Homestead, we grow chickens, goats, cows and bees, and we do it using regenerative agriculture and holistic management practices. If, like me, you love all things farming and homesteading, then we'd love to have you along for the ride. So let's get farming. G'day everyone and welcome to another episode of Not the Farmer's Wife. We are video recording this episode as well, and I have the handy helper here with me. Say hi to everyone.
Hi everyone.
So episode 91 this week, and it starts the 4 weeks of us talking about raising meat birds.
Yep.
Pastured meat birds, which is what we do aside from our pastured egg birds. We have raised 3 batches in total of meat birds that we use for our own personal consumption. And over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be discussing a lot of that because our dispatch and disassemble course is ready to go. And on top of it, for those that don't know, because I have kept it fairly quiet, I think, my book is almost ready, which is a book. It's a guidebook, I guess is the best way, from brooder to freezer, basically. It's, from getting day-old chickens all the way through to eating them. So we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff over the next 4 weeks because here in Australia it's summertime, and that would be the best time for most people to be looking at doing pasture-raised meat birds. Mm-hmm. Now, if you live in a super hot area or you're experiencing the kind of heat wave that we're having.
That we're having at the moment. Dear Lord.
It's a little bit hot here. And if you're experiencing that, then it may not be the best time to have small meat birds out in a pasture. Spring and autumn might be a better time for you. Particularly if you're up north, you probably, like northern parts of Australia, you probably would want to stick with spring or autumn because it would be a nicer time, I think.
It's pretty warm.
Yeah. So first thing we want to talk about is why pasture-raised chickens are worth the effort. Why do you think they're worth the effort?
It tastes freaking good.
That's the big one. That was the big one for us. We'd heard from other people that raising pasture-raised chickens would make a huge difference in taste by raising your own. And you know, there's lots of reasons why that could be true, but certainly for us, we've raised cobs, which are your standard 8-week from start to finish.
Yeah.
The super quick growers.
Oh, yeah.
I think you were a bit surprised when you handy helper. You were.
Oh, I went to work one day and they were chicks. I come home, they were fully grown. I'm like, holy crap.
It felt like that. It definitely did.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So we've raised cobs, but we've also raised we had ones that were a cross with a Rhode Island Red, Rhode Island White that were unsexed. They were not sexed properly.
Yeah.
Roosters. They were supposed to be hens, and they ended up being roosters.
Roosters.
And so we dispatched those. We grew them and dispatched those. They took a bit longer to grow. I think they were 24 weeks when we dispatched them.
24 weeks, yeah. We had COVID in the middle of everything and stuff with that. So that sort of buggered us up a little bit.
No, COVID was at the end of the second batch of cobs.
And we had buggered it up.
We had COVID. Both of us had COVID in the Christmas of 2022.
Yeah.
And we were due to dispatch that week. And of course, we both ended up in a screaming heap in bed and we were not dispatching, and we didn't dispatch until the following week. But the main thing for us was taste. And everybody's told us about how the taste of homegrown meat is so much better, and we can vouch for that, I think.
So different.
Yeah.
So different.
And to some people, it might be a little bit over the top, I would say, because
it actually tastes like chicken.
Yeah, it does. And that's the thing. It's what we're used to eating, what we get from the supermarket is, it's bland.
Yeah,
it's probably a good description.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually taste like chicken. The same with when you go to a proper beef producer and they have 2-year-old or 3-year-old beef that they are dispatching, selling. And I've seen people selling 10, 13-year-old beef. You know, they've already lived all their life and now they're being dispatched for food. And in the past, it was always you had to have the spring lamb or the yearling beef or, you know, the quick grow 8-week-old chicken. but the meat doesn't have the same taste as the older meat. And I think that as people develop different palates towards their food and become more involved with their food, I think they're tending more towards meat that tastes like meat.
Yeah.
And certainly for us, the chicken, it's very chickeny, but it's a good chickeny.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference. And the colour of the meat was the thing that blew me away.
Yeah, because it wasn't
It's not
weird.
that weird.
Yellowy.
Yeah.
Yellowy chicken
Pink.
meat.
No.
Yeah, it actually was like chicken meat.
Yeah.
But also too for us, one of the main reasons was that we, having educated ourselves a little bit about abattoirs and about how commercial poultry houses are run and commercial meat productions are run, we wanted to grow meat that we, hand on heart, could say was humanely raised and it lived its best chickeny life before it became our dinner.
Yep.
And it wasn't kept in a, crowded, hot, smelly commercial hatchery. And I'm not saying that all of them are like that, but
Majority are.
I think it'd be safe to say that the majority are. And no offence to people that, if you work in a hatchery, no offence to people that do, because you know what? They're pumping out the most amount of meat in the shortest space of time. And to feed the masses, that sometimes has to be done. That being said, that doesn't mean that you have to pick that option. It's your choice. You can pick the other option. And we decided to pick the other option, and we decided to go with raising our own meat that we knew had been humanely raised, and we knew how it had been raised before it was dinner. And that made us feel better about eating
Quite frankly, they were spoilt rotten.
They
were spoilt rotten.
They were pretty lucky chickens.
They were, they had the best life, that's for sure. They were spoilt rotten.
Because like our egg birds, our meat birds were pasture raised. They were out on grass from the time they were feathered enough to be outside, out from under the brooder.
Yep.
And so they
had
bugs and fresh grass and
every day.
Yeah, did all the chickeny things.
Just kept moving them every day.
Now they're also I've had a lot of people say to me, "Oh, if you raise your own chickens, do you use antibiotics? Do you use vaccinations?" We don't.
Nope.
We don't. Especially our meat birds, because they're kept segregated from our egg birds. There's not an issue for us, and because especially with our cobs, which were only raised from 0 to 8 weeks. There's no point in vaccinating them because they're not going to live long enough to be old enough to acquire any of those illnesses that you have to vaccinate against. They get eaten before then. So for us, it was a no-brainer in that sense, because we then didn't have to worry about what chemicals had been put into our meat before we consumed it. Now, I don't want anybody to think conspiracy theory stuff. I am a pro-vaccination person. We're vaccinated. Our kids are vaccinated. There's definitely a science-based reason for vaccinations, and in the right circumstances, fantastic. But for meat that's being grown on the farm here and never leaving the farm and being dispatched on the farm and going to the freezer in the farm, there is no point for us to put any more chemicals in than what we need to. So all of our chicks are fed medicated chick starter, so they definitely did have that, and that's to prevent, and I can never say it, coccidiosis.
Coccidiosis.
Yeah, thank
Something
you.
like that.
Something like that.
Sounded good anyway.
Yeah, it causes growths in the chickens and will kill them.
Yeah, it'll kill them.
Yeah, and we've had issues
We have
here.
had it happen. We have had it happen.
It's in the soil just about everywhere in Australia. So if you are raising chickens, there's a chance that your chickens, most chickens will be exposed to it. And if they are healthy birds, they will develop an immunity to it and they'll be fine. Our meat birds only get fed the chick starter, the medicated chick starter, till week 3. So when I looked into the kind of half-life of the medication, it's out of their system within a week. So in our mind, we feed it to week 3 to keep them alive. And then after week 3, they don't get it. So by the time we dispatch them and eat them, we're not consuming that's the medication that's been in the diet.
Yep.
Now, once we moved over to that, making the decision to do that meat, I think the hardest bit for you was knowing that you were going to be responsible for dispatch. And not to say that I can't dispatch. I have dispatched and I have no problem dispatching. But we did discuss it, and you said that was a role that you wanted to take on.
Yeah, I'd do it. That's what I mean.
And I mean,
first one was the test, and then we were right from there.
Yeah. Well, the first one wasn't your first chicken dispatch, was it?
No.
Because What happened with the first chicken you dispatched? And this is going back a couple of years.
The first chicken that I dispatched was a rooster.
Yeah.
And he got dispatched very quickly.
And what had I come in and said to you maybe the day before you dispatched him? What was my words?
Don't turn your back on that one.
I went out where we lived in the small farm in Gunning on our 2.5 acres, and we had a couple of roosters that we knew had to go. They were due for freezer camp anyway. But I walked outside and one of the roosters had to go at the kids. And I came in and said to the handy helper, that rooster's got to go. Watch your back. He just tried to have a go. And literally the next day.
Yeah, he dug his spurs into the back of my calf muscle. So he ran at me and climbed up me with his spurs.
And so the handy helper came in literally and went, I've just dispatched my first chook.
Yeah.
And that was
pretty quick.
The chook was done.
Yeah.
But certainly dispatching our meat birds, you didn't have a problem with it, did you?
I didn't have an issue with it, no. It's even just the way that we set it up to do it was perfect. With the kill cone.
Yeah, so we
and
use
all
the
the
kill
stuff. And like I say, with the way that we raise them, they were pulled out of the cage, and me being me, give them a cuddle and a talk to as I walked in, and then just I hold them upside down for a little bit and make them go to sleep. Straight in the kill cone.
It's funny. There's an old Scottish tradition.
No fighting, no nothing. They just go.
And I think I've mentioned this to you before. The handy helper's family background is Scottish. My family background is partially Scottish, and there is an old Scottish tradition that when you kill an animal for consumption, that there was a little prayer that they used to say to thank the animal. And now neither of us are religious people, but we no, churches were burned down with us walking in there.
Yeah, I've got some flames.
We do definitely thank our animals for.
Yeah,
we like in our.
Let's give them a cuddle and talk to them to make sure that they're nice and calm.
Yeah.
When they're calm, and they just chickens are chickens. You hold a chicken upside down, it goes to sleep.
Yep. And then into the kill cone, so it's already.
And then it's already half asleep and dopey. By the time you put it in the kill cone, it's still actually upside down. So, it's quick and easy. They don't fight.
So you never had a problem with it, did you?
No, not at all.
And that's
only from when I cut myself. That was about it.
Yeah, I sharpened the knife a little bit too sharp for him, and because I wanted it very sharp, because you want to dispatch them quickly, and you want it to be without any kind of pain or suffering. You want it to be super quick. Unfortunately, I sharpened the knife just there.
If anybody knows how sharp butcher's knives are, you don't slip and miss with a butcher's knife, especially when you go here with a butcher's knife.
And I may have gone a little overboard with the sharpening. So the health benefits of having your own homegrown chicken, and this is something that we do talk about, in regards to the not using antibiotics and things like that, or vaccinations in our chickens. But I actually had a look, and they reckon that the meat that's raised on pasture-raised birds is actually higher in omega-3s. And less saturated fat. Now,
yeah, we did look at that.
Yeah, as some of you know, I've trialled carnivore, and so I have no problem eating animal fats anyway. But I've got to be honest, I get bored with eating steak, bacon, steak, egg, steak, bacon, steak.
Chicken's great.
So having chicken in between is fine by me. And chicken wrapped in bacon, or chicken with egg mayonnaise sauce over the top.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, because I've just learned how to make boiled egg mayonnaise, which was pretty cool.
That was pretty good.
It was pretty good. But yeah, they're not having that same exposure to antibiotics and feed additives that would be probably more used in commercial feedlots. And they're used in commercial feedlots, like I said before, no offense to commercial feedlots. They are trying to pump out the most amount of food in the shortest amount of time. That's right.
Yeah.
But for us, we're doing it from our personal perspective. They do have a high vitamin content, and my understanding on that, it's the same with the egg situation with pasture-raised birds. When they're constantly exposed to pasture and grasses and bugs, and they can forage for their own food, as well as their layer pellets. They still get grower pellets and layer pellets depending on which bird they are. But they do end up with a higher level of the B vitamins and the E vitamins and vitamin D in eggs particularly, and my understanding is in meat as well. And that's because they have a higher exposure and a more varied diet. So what goes in comes out. And that's if what's going in to make the bird is better quality, then of course what's coming out is going to be better.
Protein as well.
Yeah. Because our birds, despite what people think about vegetarian chickens,
vegetarian chickens.
Our chickens are definitely not vegetarian, and any time that a small rodent or a large insect goes into the cages with our chickens,
Yep.
oh my God, it's a free for all. The fight is
a
on.
mouse or something like that. Wah. It's a
They
rumble.
go nuts.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, obviously, is parasite loads. If they're out on a pastured environment and being moved daily, and
Yep.
you know, the Handy Helper built an amazing Joel Salatin style chicken tractor for me. How big is
3 by 3, 3 meters by 3 meters.
Yeah, it's not quite as big
And
as his.
that's-
His were bigger,
Yeah, I think his were 4 by 4.
but he has a lot more birds. We don't
Yeah,
do as many
3
birds.
by 3 meters, and they stand probably about 800 high.
Yeah, not even, maybe.
Probably not even.
Yeah.
probably about 600 high.
And quite, like, it's a little bit heavy.
Sheltered in the back, wire in the front, so they can
It's
get out
heavy
of the
enough so that it won't blow away.
Oh, it won't blow away.
But it's not so heavy that I can't move it. So I could move it prior to my knee surgery, obviously. I could move it on my own if I had to, but usually the Handy Helper and I go up there and take us 10 minutes tops to top up feed, water, and move it to new pasture. So because of that, we didn't have to worry about parasite loads in our chickens. So all of our chickens that we were eating had not been wormed because they didn't need to be wormed because they were never sitting in their own manure. They were never, the parasite load could never get high enough to warrant worming. So that was another thing that we didn't have to add to their feed and into their bodies. So for us, it was a no-brainer in that it was healthier for us to eat pasture-raised chicken that we'd raised ourselves, not just from the ethical perspective of, you know, we knew how they were raised, but also from the health perspective of we know what's gone into these chickens to make them, and we know that there's no nasties. There's nothing that we wouldn't want to be consuming or have our family consuming. Now, the cost breakdown. And I did work it out. I've got my little thing here, my little note, because I had to write it all down. So we were raising 20 birds at a time. And I'm sure some people will say, oh my God, it will cost way more to raise.
No.
Now.
Surprising. No.
The Handy Helper is the master of invention when it comes to secondhand things. So what did you use to build the chicken tractor?
Scrap wood that I had laying around. Some old chicken wire.
Yeah.
And I think I found some Colorbond sheeting somewhere at someone's house. I might have been doing a job and they were throwing it out, and I went, yoink, I'll have that.
So did you pay for anything?
Screws to hold it together.
There you go.
Because I couldn't find any.
The right size ones.
Yeah.
And even the feeders and the waterers inside, we used an old chicken waterer that we hung from a hook on the inside.
On the inside.
And the feeders you made out, what's the pipe called that you made it out of?
It's PVC downpipe.
Yeah.
Downpipe for gutters.
That's all he used, and he just drilled holes in it along it, and we'd pour it in, and it'd come down the chute, and they could go along and eat. So a couple of birds could eat at the same time.
Yep.
And total cost, do you reckon?
$20 tops.
And how much time did it take you to make it?
Took me about 3 hours. That was it.
Yeah. So I know people will go, oh, but you have to have the infrastructure and all the rest of it. That's the total of the infrastructure for us. Then we purchased birds. So we bought cobs from a place up in Sydney called Barter and Sons, and they were, at the time, this is 2 years ago, at the time they were $4 a bird. They're probably a little bit dearer now. $4 a bird, and we got 20. They sent us 21, and one died in transit. Which I think they tend to do. I think they send an extra bird because one likely will die. So we had 20 birds at $4 each, which is $80 in total cost for the birds. Then the feed. We were averaging a bag of feed a week, and that was, it averaged out to that. But the starter feed, starter growing stuff, we probably went through 3 bags of that because we were still feeding it to them when we moved them out onto pasture.
They call it mash. Is it mash?
No, it was it's like a kibble. Chick starter.
Okay.
It's like a small broken up bits. And then they went on to grower pellets once they were outside.
Yep.
But we were going through roughly a bag a week. It was give or take a little bit. So we had 8 weeks worth of bags at $20 a bag. That's roughly what it was then when we did it. So in total, the total cash cost to us was $240. And then there was our time.
Yep.
Now, even when they're in the brooder house, we only spent probably 10 to
10 minutes
15
if
minutes tops.
Top up water, top up feed.
Yeah, one day of the week
clean out.
we'd do a little. Well, we didn't remember we did the deep fill method, so we were
we did.
literally just sprinkling extra bedding on top of the bedding that was in there, and so it probably took me half an hour to clean it out after they'd moved out. So a half-hour chunk to clean the whole thing out and sterilize it for the next birds to come in. But that's the time factor was 15 minutes a day tops. If you say 15 minutes a day, then you're absolutely covering yourself. Now, out of the 20 birds, we ended up with 3 kilos average, 3 kilos per bird. So roughly 60 kilos worth of chicken meat or chicken carcasses. 60 kilos worth, which works out to be $4 a kilo.
Yeah.
Now, you have to factor in our effort and time and our labour. So even if you said it was $5 or $6 a kilo, when you factored in our time, it's still coming in under, I think the cheapest I can get chicken breast at the moment is $9.99 a kilo here in Australia.
$10 a kilo.
So we're still coming in a lot under. So if you're only raising them for yourself, and even aside from the health benefit or the ethical benefit of having your own, then the financial benefit is there. If you do everything, efficiently. If you're the kind of person that's going to take half an hour to do the chickens every single day, then that might impact your time.
Depends on what you want to do. You know.
Well, if you've got time, if you're not working and you've got time to do that, no biggie.
No biggie.
For us, we work full time, both of us off farm. So for us, it was a case of we had to do it as efficiently as possible, and that's move the tractor, fill the feed up, fill the water up, check the birds are all okay, and off we go for the day. And that was it. And then we'd come back in the afternoon and we'd check. And I've got to be honest, there was a couple of times where we maybe moved the tractor a second time, especially as they got older, because they were chewing up all of their grass. And we didn't want them sitting in their own manure, so we moved it again in the afternoon. But we didn't do food and water then, we just moved it.
We top water up, that'd be about it.
Well, I don't even remember doing that in the afternoons. But what I mean is that it was a very minimal time outlay.
It's quick and easy.
So, and I think having them on that pasture raised thing cuts down the amount of feed that you need, because they're
in the grass.
Yeah, they're so exposed to grass and bugs. They do.
And bugs, bits and pieces.
I remember somebody said to me something about somebody was complaining that some bird had walked into a butcher's shop and asked for grass-fed chicken.
Grass-fed chicken.
And somebody said, but chickens don't eat grass. And I'm like, yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Ours do.
Yeah, they do.
Ours love it.
They love grass.
Especially grass seeds, yeah. So that's what it costs you. So if it's a cost factor that you're thinking about, then really go and check at your Tractor Supply or local rural produce store and see how much chick starter is and how much grower pellets are, and then you can work it out from there. But to us, you've got to remember too, $9.99 is what you're paying in the shop for standard commercial chicken, not for organic pasture-raised chicken.
Yeah, the organic stuff.
How much is
the roof.
Organic and pasture-raised chicken? I've got no idea how much that is, because I don't think I've ever paid for it.
It's about $18 a kilo. It's small, yeah.
I mean, like everything pasture-raised, I know with our eggs, we laugh about it because in the shops you can't get pasture-raised eggs under $13 for a dozen, which is insane in our mind. But it doubles. As soon as they say organic or pasture-raised, it doubles. And it doubles because it is more labour-intensive, and it is, you're not doing that commercial production line kind of thing. So it does impact the cost. But certainly when you look at the long-term savings, if you're buying organic or pasture-raised meat as your chicken source, then doing it this way would definitely be cheaper. And have to be cheaper. And also too, don't forget, if you're getting feed through a regular Tractor Supply or rural produce store, speak to them about discounts, about savings that they have. I went in the other day and our lovely rural produce place in Hall had a fantastic deal on of 3 bags of chicken feed, get 1 free. Yes, please, I'll take that. Yep. So check with them, because when you become a regular customer, they will point out the better food for you. They'll point out the cheaper food. They'll tell you when there's specials coming up, things like that.
Always pays to go, I think, to a proper rural stock feed place too.
Yeah, somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Someone who actually knows what they're talking about, not some 15-year-old pimple-faced kid that works there on weekends. Some know.
Might know. Some of them grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
But it's worth going in and speaking to somebody.
Yeah.
We've been really lucky here. We have Yas stock feeds, which we've
Yep.
used in the past.
Yes, stock feeds, yeah.
Before our new one opened up, and the guys out there were awesome. They had
Yeah, they were
some
really good. They were
really
really
good
good. They knew
knowledge.
their
There was
stuff.
nothing they couldn't tell you.
Mm.
But Hall Stock Feeds, which is part of Canberra Stock Feeds for us, they have been absolutely amazing as far as the information and the products that and products for medical stuff as well, for goats and things like
goats
that.
and bits and pieces. Yeah, they carry a lot of gear.
Yeah.
So,
well, I have a sip of water. Do you want to start on just roughly what we need to get started?
all right. Obviously, for starting to raise the meat birds and stuff like that, a brooder setup, somewhere where you can start your chicks from, made possibly with heat pads and bits and pieces.
Well, there's not a lot that they need.
There's not a lot that they need. Little heat pads are good. We got some samples to try, and we've used the absolute buggery out of them.
And we may be stocking them real soon. So watch this space.
Because they worked really well.
Yeah. They're good quality.
Obviously, the brooder setup and everything's got to be kept nice and clean in bits and pieces when they're little, because you can lose them.
Rodent free. Rodent free
if you can, if you can. Chicken tractor, or part of the chicken cage that we used, that we built, just to house them in. You probably could free range them if you wanted to, but catching them could be the fun bit.
Yeah.
The beauty of the setup with the chicken tractor was that they were in the tractor, and the fact that we didn't have to go chasing them to get them in the end, and they were happy to move around in that. They were on fresh grass every day, so they loved it.
And the cob meat birds do not fly much.
No,
they're flighty birds.
They're too heavy. They're too heavy. Yeah,
so moving them in the tractor is enough for them to be on fresh pasture. They don't care about being able to fly like a Isa Brown or an Australorp or those other flightier kinds of birds that like to have a little bit of free range.
And there is a secret to moving them in the tractor, is to put a little tiny bit of food right at the front of the tractor when you go to move it, because the lazy ones at the back will get flattened.
And we unfortunately
flattened a few when we were moving it.
We didn't flatten them. We actually broke toes.
Yeah, we broke toes.
We broke toes on legs because
we went to
move
front, and they all run at it, and then you can move the tractor forward. By the time you've moved it forward, they've eaten everything on the ground, and you put a little bit more
and they all run, and then you've got the
you're not bumping them up the bum with the back of the tractor as you're moving them.
Yeah.
And obviously good feeders, good water supply. A lot of people like Joel Sullivan with his. He had a 20-litre drum full of water on the top with a hose running down into another water feeder. So they had a really good constant supply of water.
We want to do that.
We want to do that
for our next lot.
For our next lot,
yeah.
We've worked out a few different things, trial and error. You work out a few different things as you go along.
Yeah. We wanted to get started in the first place, which is why we did just the hanging water.
Yeah.
But now that we know what we're doing,
it'll be different next time. We'll probably do a few different things. Stay posted if we do that again. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll video for sure.
And the
what do you say?
I'm drawing a mental blank.
Feed, water, tractor,
housing. That's probably about it. It's easier than you think. It sounds complicated, but once it's set up, it goes fast. It moves fast. Everything, they grow good. The kid, if you've got kids, doesn't matter. The kids can go out and play with the chickens while they're growing as well. It doesn't really matter.
And certainly get the kids out to help you do the feed and watering. Yep. We did with ours.
Yeah, we used to get ours out to do it. They'd feed and water them, and then go and do the other chooks in the pasture as well.
Go and do the egg chook.
Do the egg chooks.
So the main thing that we've really pushed is that we wanted to step away from supermarkets, and the book that I'm editing at the moment, it's almost ready to go to a professional editor to get finalised, which would be very exciting. Is Ditch the Store. It's a series of books. They're going to be guidebooks on how to not have to rely on supermarkets to get your food. And for us, that was the big thing.
That was the big thing. Yeah.
And we're not tight or cheap people. We're frugal people. Our money is hard earned, and we want to spend it where it's important to us to spend. And if we can raise our own food that is healthier and better for us without having to spend money at the supermarket, we kind of seem like
don't get me wrong. I've still smashed Red Rooster before.
Oh,
because I'm
yeah.
hungry.
We're not saints
I'm
by any
liking,
stretch.
I'm liking Red Rooster more than KFC, put it that way.
Yeah, yeah,
But anyway,
but we're not saints by any stretch. We still
no.
buy takeout. We still buy from the store. But if we can replace most of our store bought items
Yep.
with things that we can grow here on the farm,
We'll have a
that's what
crack
we're
at
trying
it,
to
that's
do.
for sure. Yep.
And that's one of the things that I try and push with people with the egg birds is, having egg birds, it's the same. You want to, you don't want to buy store-bought eggs.
Can you remember the last time we brought eggs?
No. Oh, and I mean, we've got
I think
some,
we did it once in Gunning. We brought a carton
yes.
once, one carton.
Yeah, and you went out and waved at the girls and told them they were
Yeah, I took
freeloaders.
them out and waved the empty carton at them and yelled at them, and then
So
they
they were
started laying again.
freeloaders.
Yeah.
And they're all going to end up in the freezer, and they started laying
Yeah.
again. But that's, I mean, the guts of it is that the reason why you would be raising your own meat birds is that you want to break away from relying on supermarkets for all of your food. And it doesn't mean to say you can't ever buy chicken from the supermarket again. We still buy chicken from the supermarket.
Every now we do it, yeah.
Yeah, but to be able to primarily raise your own meat is awesome. And because it doesn't take a lot of space with chickens, if you're in a backyard environment, you could still do it.
You can do it quite
we
easily.
know people that have,
Yep.
like I know people through my homesteading groups who are raising chickens in a urban backyard
in a
setup
backyard.
using a chicken tractor that they move across their lawn.
Yep.
There's no reason why you couldn't do it.
Yep, you can do it. And it's good for the grass too.
Yes, and then what we noticed, because our chickens are out in our goat paddock, our milking goat paddock, and what we've noticed is every time we move the chicken tractor or the chicken pens, the grass
Comes
shoots
back
up
tenfold.
because it's been aerated by the chickens digging in it. It's been fertilized by the chickens shitting and peeing, well, pooping,
Yep.
chicken poop, all over it. So it's been fertilized. They've dug it up. And then when we move them, it gets rested from the chickens. When it gets that rested stage,
Yep.
that's when the grass just explodes.
Yep.
And then the goats come along and they're like, oh my God, beautiful fresh green grass, and they don't share the same parasites with chickens. So it's not an issue.
Yeah, it's good.
Now, eggs versus meat. Chickens, the one thing with chickens that we noticed was it was the easiest thing for us to get into, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So
I mean,
straightforward and simple. They really are.
A lot of people go, oh, it's all right for you. You're on 120 acres. Of course, you've got
can do it in
land.
the backyard.
The space that we're doing the chickens in, the eggs and the meat birds, is 4 acres.
Yep.
That's what we use for our chickens.
Yep.
They're not.
They're our
We've got
primary paddocks.
mountainous, forested area up the back of our 120 acres that is only good for cows, goats, and horses and bees. Our bees are up there as well.
Mm.
But the chickens don't go outside of that 4 acre paddock. So if you're on 5 acres, you absolutely could do it. If you're on 2 acres, you could do it. If you're on an acre, you could do it.
Yeah.
It depends on how many birds and how often you're having them on there.
Yeah.
But the thing for us was it was so easy as far as the price range.
Yeah.
So where you might have to pay, I think I paid $250 for the 2 potty calves each.
Yep.
We just spent $250 on 10 hens
Yes.
that are purebred Brahmas. So the difference between buying a $250 potty calf that's going to take 2 years to grow and needs all that extra space versus 10 Brahma purebred hens that are going in with our Brahma boys, you would have seen posted on social media.
Maverick and Goose.
Yeah. That, like, the cost factor, it's so much easier for people to get into. It's a great starting point because you don't have to spend a lot. It doesn't require a lot of work. You can even set, and I talk about this in my egg laying course, you can set it up so that chickens you can go away for the weekend and know that your chickens are safe.
Yep.
You can have them locked in so that no predators can get to them, have their feed and water piled up so that you know that they're going to be covered for food and water, and you can take the weekend off.
We've done it. We did 4 days.
Yeah, we did 4 days, and the chickens were fine.
Yeah.
And we didn't even collect eggs. The eggs just sat in that period. Now, we didn't sell those eggs. We kept them for our own personal use just in case there was anything wrong with them. But if you're only doing it for your own family's consumption, there's no reason why you can't do it. And like I say, chickens are probably the best. They're the gateway drug to homesteading. They have the starting point for people, and they're the simplest starting point and the lowest cost starting point. So it's a great way to kind of test the water and see whether or not you could do it, particularly with your cob meat birds. If you are thinking, oh, I'd love to get a cow or a pig to dispatch, start with chickens. It's
Yeah.
so much easier to start
Yeah.
dispatching chickens and going through that process of disassembling and prepping them for freezer and all that kind of thing. It's a real small outlay to trial it.
Yeah.
Whereas pigs would be the worst. I don't think we could do pigs here because they're hard work. I've done pigs as a kid with my mum and dad, and it's physically hard work. You need a lot of space, a lot of freezer space or a big cool room. You need to be able to sear skin. They do a process where they sear the skin. I think they now have gas cylinder things that they use for it.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways
Yeah,
you can do it. Yeah.
but it's a lot more involved than chickens. Now we made our own chicken plucker, but you can hire them especially in the States. They can hire them in lots of places. We're eventually hoping to make a portable trailer that has all of the gear on it, and we can hire it out to people, and they just literally drive it to their property, dispatch all their chickens, wash it all out with sterilising kit that we have provided, and then they can return the trailer to us. And we can use it when we need it, but we can hire it out to other people.
Yep.
So they don't have to outlay for that kind of equipment. But you can, we did all the equipment.
Made it all ourselves.
Disassemble, we made it ourselves.
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
So
from rubbish around the farm.
It's very much a really good in. Now, if you're interested at all in doing that, stay tuned because, like I say, we've got the Disassemble and Dispatch course coming up it'll be in the next week. There'll be stuff going out about it from when you get this, which will be, Monday the 25th. This one will be released, episode 91. So that week, you should start seeing some stuff coming out about the Disassemble and Dispatch course. And you'll also see some stuff coming out about the book. And so hopefully that will be available to you. So if you're interested in doing your own chickens and like raising them from brooder to freezer, then listen out and hopefully you'll get all the information that you need.
Yep.
Is there anything else you want to say about raising backyard meat birds? Or
don't get attached.
That's
I have one chicken that will never go anywhere. She's my favourite.
The handy helper has his favourite.
I have a pet chicken and she doesn't reside with the other chooks.
She's too good for everybody else.
She's too good for everybody else. She follows me everywhere like a dog.
She's goat chicken. She lives up in the goat house.
She lives in the goat house.
She doesn't see herself as being one of the flock.
Yep.
She's like the union representative that speaks to management every day. So every morning we're lying in bed and we
sleep in. No.
We have a glass window that looks out onto the patio area at the back of our bedroom, and she comes and taps on the glass to let us know it's time to get up and go and milk the goats. And can't get anything past goat chicken.
She's my favourite.
So there will be some that you will never dispatch.
Yeah. You will get attached to them and name them.
And that's okay too.
That's okay.
The good bit about homesteading is you make your own rules.
Yep.
So nobody gets to tell you that you have to do something because it's entirely your choice.
Yep.
And on that note, I think we'll leave it. Thanks everybody for listening in. And if you're watching the video, thanks for watching the video. And we will see you all next week. We will be talking more about chickens. I think we're talking about getting started.
Stay posted for the book.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, very exciting.
Should be good.
Very exciting. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.
Cheers, guys.
See yous. Thank you so much for listening. From all of us at Mojo Homestead, we really hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, I ask just one small favour. Please subscribe and leave a review. Reviews help small podcasts like mine be more visible, so more people will know about us and be able to listen in. And don't forget to head over to www.mojohomestead.net/launch and check out our freebies. We love helping families start their homesteading journey. Remember, life's too short for store-bought eggs.